Hey folks, I am Skylar Rochelle from the Z Show here on 90.9 The Bridge. Today I have the pleasure of talking with Lilly West of Chicago band Lala Lala, who will be releasing their absolutely stunning record, I Want the Door to Open, on October 8th via Hardly Art. Lilly, thank you so much for coming to say howdy.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Yes. So now I kind of want to start off with a sort of fun question, if that's okay. Um,
Definitely.
So bear with me. What kind of sounds make your ears thankful?
Interesting. Okay, this is a really exposing answer of how I'm not very cool, but I have extremely sensitive hearing, so like quiet sounds make my ears really thankful. I love ambient music and that kind of thing, and I think sort of ASMR sounds I love. And water sounds. I mean, I know I will not shut up about water. It's like all I sing about, but I love water sounds.
I love that. So wait, I have a very I've always been super curious what draws you to water and water imagery.
I don't know. I think there's an element of it is that I was always into, like, as a kid, I always wanted to be underwater. Um yeah, I was like always trying to be in the pool and in the bath and everything. And so there's like an instinctual thing, like with Lake Michigan in Chicago. If I go into the lake, I'm like, my day is set, like it doesn't really matter what else happened that day. I got in the lake, like I've been reborn. It's perfect. But I think it's just so powerful, and it's so what's the word, like malleable.
Mhm.
There's so many different forms of water and it can fit into any shape, any shape that you put it in, but it can also completely engulf you and destroy you. So it's like, I don't know, I think it's just the most magical element.
Oh yes, that's wonderful. And I also feel like that's kind of how your music is sort of, like it takes a whole lot of different shapes, but also I don't know, is super, I don't know, it always makes you feel something.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, and also another thing that I really love about your music is that you can also see this very beautiful self progression from album to album. And I know, progress and growth are not linear, but it's been really wonderful to see you go from Sleepyhead, which you first posted online back in 2016 in the wee hours of the morning, to 2018's The Lamb, which was kind of your first steps into being freshly signed to the Sub Pop imprint Hardly Art. And all that being said, what would you consider I Want the Door to Open to be?
um I don't know. I think that the first two records I made, I only started playing music when I was like 21. And we recorded Sleepyhead like approximately 18 minutes after I started playing guitar. Like I knew three chords and it was very much just like what I was capable of. And The Lamb was also recorded pretty much live. And it was sort of like I wrote those songs and then we made them the only way I knew how. And then this record, I spent so much time thinking about what each song needed and wanted and what it could be. And if it was something that I wasn't capable of, I asked someone else to help me. Like there's so many other musicians that play. There's three musicians that play on The Lamb. I guess four. Sen plays sax on one song. So there's four musicians that play on The Lamb. And there's like 30 that play on this record. It's much more collaborative. And I felt like it was more important to communicate what I wanted to communicate sonically as much. It was as important to communicate sonically as it has been for me in the past to communicate lyrically, which it still is really important to me to communicate lyrically, but it also felt like it was a record less about me and more about existing or about everyone and everything, so I would say that it's the first record that I tried to expand
I
in
love
that way.
Yeah. And from my perception, you seem like someone who, actively seeks out that sort of change and wants movement, whether in your music or, through your personal growth. And I read somewhere that you want every record to feel like a debut. So do you feel like this is with this one?
I'm sorry, my cats are running around making a lot of noise. Yeah, I just want every record to be, I never want to make the same thing twice.
Mhm.
Even if some people are like sad about that or wish, or like, oh, this is the worst record, which I don't think is true. But yeah, sorry, I got distracted by my freaking cat.
You're good. You're good. I also
What was the question?
I understand. What was the question? Is that
Yeah.
does this album feel like a debut?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. It's a debut of this version of me and this project. I think that it would make sense for the last two records to be one project and this to be a totally new project, but it just so happens that Lala Lala is like my moniker and I'll probably never change it. So it just might end up being all over the place.
Heck yeah. And I don't often get to talk with folks pre-album release. So first of all, I feel like so lucky to have this opportunity to speak with you at such a unique time. And second of all, how do you feel leading up to October 8th?
It's releasing music is really weird when you're not playing shows because it's basically all on your phone. You're just like, here's the song, it's on Instagram, everything's the same in my life. But it is also relieving having been holding on to them for a while and getting to share them. But I think that I'm just so excited to play shows again because that's where it really, that's where you experience the album with other people, really.
Mhm.
Right now, the songs just are living separately than me, which is great too. I want them to live with other people, but I just feel I can't wait to play shows and experience it with other
Yeah,
people.
do you feel more prepared to tour compared to last time?
100%. I mean, we not literally, we have just started rehearsing, so we're not ready to perform, but emotionally, spiritually, yeah, I'm like so in such a grateful, excited place. I mean, I was just so burnt out by the end of touring. Last time it was like 3 years pretty much straight playing songs that were just getting older and older, and I didn't feel like I had a chance to like catch up with myself or figure out who I wanted to be or what I wanted the music to be. And now I feel like I really, really believe in this. And obviously no one being able to tour for like 2 years, I'm just so ready. So
Yeah,
excited.
it's time.
Yes.
So you've talked about being extremely intentional with everything about this record, and has that way of kind of going about it relieved any pressure surrounding it?
I think that it makes it easier to communicate, or it's easier for me to release something that I really had a heavy hand in every step of the way. And obviously or maybe not obviously, I take advice a lot from my team and my friends and everything, but if I've made the final decision on everything, it's easier to not regret it.
Yes.
I'm like, I made this choice.
It's happening. So now shifting sort of into the actual content of the album, the central theme kind of centers around the story of Sisyphus. Could you talk a little bit about that and what that represents?
Yeah, I mean, that's just me just desperate to change and be free of myself and this personality just being so, it's so exhausting to be with yourself 100% of the time, and to make the same mistakes over and over again. And I do think that growth exists, and I do think time is a spiral that we are traveling upwards, even though it feels like we're going in a circle. But yeah, I just feel like Sisyphus. I feel like I'm hauling the rock over and over again up the hill, but the only way, and there's no way to escape that. The only way to be free is to accept it and to fall in love with the rock. as I've been saying, fall in love with the labor of learning and changing, because that is literally life. That's just what it is. It's just, you have to engage, if you want to, if you want to grow and change. There is, of course, you can,
Right.
I think you can sit at the bottom of the hill with the rock if you want, but that's sort of devastating. It's very sad to me that you would give up on growing and changing and accept that you are just this one way. But yeah, so I think also, making music for me is like begging the universe for relief of pressure, like whether it be a really strong emotion, like being heartbroken or something, or what I'm talking about, just being relieved of myself. It's just like making a song is me just saying, is like, this is how I feel. Please relieve me of this intense emotion, or this intense thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very that's such a cool way to look and think about, that concept about like, falling in love with the rock and the process of that. And what kind of, was there something that like made that click? Like what unlocked that perspective on it for you?
It was kind of near the end of the record. I feel like when I write songs, sometimes I don't know what I'm singing about. Sometimes it's really obvious. I'm like, I'm heartbroken. Here's the song. I'm very sad. But sometimes I think that I'm writing sort of nonsense. And then like the longer I work on the song, I'm like, oh my God, this is very clearly about this. And that was just me looking at all of the songs and then just how I was feeling. Just like, why am I like this? What is wrong with me? Why can't I change? And then looking at the songs and realizing that's what I'd been singing about. But falling in love with the rock actually came, I really got into it talking to Brielle Brilliant, who directed the Diver video.
Yeah.
They're a really amazing, intelligent person. And when we were talking about the Diver video, we like really got into Sisyphus and what it meant to be Sisyphus.
That video is absolutely like stunning, like truly. Yeah, what was it like filming something like that, like having a big old block of ice just out? I don't know where you were, like looked like the desert or something, but
yeah, it's a dry lake bed 2 hours north of LA. It was so stressful. I was so nervous about that whole video. It was like we had a pretty small budget and everyone who worked on it called in like every favor. The producer, Renee, like absolutely went above and beyond to make that happen. And I was just so nervous the whole time. It's like we couldn't afford to rent a camera. So the cinematographer, Ben Mullen, we used his camera and he had some expired film that he was willing to like donate to the project. So we only had 15 minutes of film.
oh my God.
And it was expired. So I was like, I don't even know if it's going to work. And it was 1,800 pounds of ice driven in a truck, 2 hours, picked up in LA, driven to this dry lake bed. And I was just like, it's going to crack, it's going to melt, it's going to cloud, because ice does that when the sun hits it. And like it didn't crack in the truck. And as soon as we got it out, I mean, we filmed the close-ups and like of the keys and the things that we needed right away. But it was very nerve-wracking, but also very beautiful and validating. Like it was very wonderful that everyone believed in the project so much that they were willing to basically donate their time and energy and sometimes their literal money. Like it was very I can't think of the word gratifying. It was just really, it was stressful but really powerful. I'm so grateful to everyone who worked on that video.
Yeah, it's you can tell a lot of labor of love went into it for sure. Yeah. And also you kind of have some film background with your dad being a filmmaker and your first job being at a film art house back in the day. What how does the visual world kind of inform your music?
I think that movies, I love movies, and often they create a sort of impossible feeling that I sometimes get listening to music too, and I really love that and access it. It's like this really extreme feeling where time stops and or nothing else matters. You're just like so present. It's so hard to be present for everyone in general, especially now with all the freaking phones. I know I sound like Instagram, whatever, but it's true. It's like everyone lives in like anticipation. And I'm obsessed with this feeling that you get from like that movie Paris, Texas, like things that are really expansive, beautiful, like Color the Pool, back of the motorcycle at night. Like I really am obsessed with this, getting to this extreme feeling. And I try and do that with music. Like there's music that makes me feel that way too. I'm a little bit rambling, but I want life to feel like a movie. I don't know if that's because I've always watched movies, and I also have such an intense imagination. It's really hard for me to tell reality from non-reality. Like if I watch a movie, I swear it becomes like a memory in my life. Like that's why I don't watch any scary movies, because my brain feels like it cannot tell that it's not real. It's just like I saw this horrible thing happen. So I don't know if that's because I've always watched movies or like been aware of what it takes to make a movie. I don't know. But yeah, I would say that I'm very influenced by that.
Yes, it's very cool. And also, in addition to the visual that accompanied Diver, which announced your record, you also drew inspiration from Kate Bush and Jennifer Egan's novel Manhattan Beach. What is it about those two that moved you so much to include them in your music?
Well, the Jennifer Egan book Manhattan Beach, I wanted the character in that book. She becomes the first female diver during the Second World War at this Navy yard in New York, and everyone is telling her no over and over again, and she still does it. And I didn't identify with that, and I wanted to. I thought it was so beautiful that you could want something so much that you would put yourself through that. Which actually also, like, I was just at Earthship Academy for all of June, which is this school for sustainable housing. And Phil Basehart, the main foreman there, he built his own house, and it took him 5 years, and he lived on the land for those 5 years, partially in a tent, and then when the building was sort of more structured, he moved in. But it gets so fucking cold. Sorry, I don't know how to swear. It gets extremely cold in New Mexico in the winter, and he just wanted so badly to build his own house and not spend money and not owe anything to the government or owe anything to anyone, that he was willing to be that uncomfortable for that long. And I thought that and that's a lot of people at Earthship feel that way. And I think it's so beautiful and so pure to have such an extreme desire. And that was really inspiring for Diver. Like I want that. I want to be so desperate that I could do that. I just love that book. I love Jennifer Egan. And Kate Bush, that was more sonically, she's just really extreme. And this was one song that usually when I make a song, I try and take a lot away before I finish it. I'm like, do I need this instrument here? Do I need this and that? And with this song, Yoni and I, who produced it, we were like, let's leave everything in. Like, let's just pack it as densely as possible. And then Macy Stewart from OWN, who sang backup and plays violin, we sent it to her for doing backup vocals, and she was like, I'm getting kind of a Kate Bush vibe. Like, is it okay if I do a Kate Bush thing? And we were like, that's literally exactly what we want. Just go all out. So I just thought I just wanted to try something.
That's so
intense.
yeah, that's so fun. And like I feel like the two tracks that you've put out have both been extremely different sonically. Like how have you gone about exploring these different styles or genres? And like what is driving this sort of desire to do so?
Just to enjoy myself and to really love what I make, you know, like I mean every song on the record is pretty much really different, and we just tried a ton of different things. Color of the Pool, actually, that song I wrote, like I started writing like 5 years ago, and the lyrics have changed a ton of times, and I've made like 35 versions of it. Like there's a version that's extremely slow and like has a bunch of bells, and then there's one that's like really fast and has EDM. And we could not crack the code of this song, but it was really important to me that it made it on the record. And actually it only came together, we had a totally different version working of it, and Yoni really liked it, and I like started crying. I was like, I hate this, it's not working. And like 2 days before I left the final recording session in Cincinnati, we just started completely over. And I on I made a demo a while ago that I really like, that's kind of EDM, and it has this Logic preset that is pretty corny, but it had this like pulsing bass thing that I really liked. And we're like, okay, how do we recreate that in not a corny way? And we used I actually have it right here, my pocket piano. And you can't set tempo, or you can, but not accurately. It's like a dial. So we made the chords for that, and then we cut it up, which is why it's like really hard to keep time on that song, because it's the arpeggiating within the chord is actually not in time, but we cut it up so the chord is in time. And we were like, okay, we're getting somewhere a little bit, and then there's like a bass synth, and I just had Yoni leave. I was like, just put the song on loop and leave the room. And he left me alone for like an hour and a half, and I came up with the bass synth line. And once we had that, I was like, it's happening. It's finally happening. It's working. Everything is making sense. And then he did the claps, which we were inspired by a Sun Lux song that I can't remember the name of that he showed to me, but he wanted to have it like be kind of flammy. And then we also Adam Schatz to play saxophone, and he had sent us a couple of tracks that were, you know, they were earlier in the song, and we just dragged them into the file, and we had them all on top of each other, and we were going to listen to them one by one to see like which was the right saxophone or what we wanted to work with. And we accidentally played them all at the same time. Like usually we would isolate each track, and it sounded so cool. We were like, holy shit, like we just use all of them. And we did. I don't know if I just over explained so much, but that's how we make Color of the Pool.
I love that. Oh my God. I mean, gosh, that must feel like so gratifying to have finally like gotten it to where you want it. Like, oh my gosh.
I never thought that would happen. I was like, this song is my punishment. And now I love where it ended up.
That's so cool. Now, do you go through like a lot of ideations of your songs usually, or was that kind of its own isolated thing?
It totally depends. Some songs like fall out. There's a song on the record called Bliss Now that pretty much sounds exactly like the demo. Like I just made the demo, and I really liked how it sounded, and we basically recreated it at like a slightly higher quality. But other songs, yeah, I mean, there's some songs that like I have written a whole song, don't really like the song, and I just lift the entire lyrics and just make them to a totally different song. And the timeline between that can be so long, or it can be really short. There's just so many. I feel like I have like essentially like a database, a very small database, that makes it sound massive, of ideas of lyrics and songs, and I'm constantly like combining them and taking different ones. And yeah, I mean, Color of the Pool was definitely the one. I've never made more versions of any song than that song. That was very much me just like trying to make that work.
Wow, wow. That's so, and the saxophone on that is insane. I like, oh my gosh, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, this is wild. And, you know, not only have you been exploring a whole lot of different genres, but you've also ventured a whole lot, like you mentioned, into collaboration with this album alongside folks like Yanni and Namdi, Agbanaya, Kara Jackson, Omi, Sin Morimoto, and just like so many others. Uh, what have you learned from working with so many talented people like yourself, and has it altered your own musical process at all?
Definitely. I mean, I try and really pay attention to how everyone does stuff. But I think more than anything, I've just learned there's no right way to make music. Like the way that everyone does it is valid. There's like 1,000 different ways to make music. Yeah, I love collaborating. I love seeing what other people can bring to the table. I think that because I do songwriting totally alone, like in this room that I'm in right now. It's just me, and it's really easy to get really wrapped up and lose perspective. And it's super wonderful to get other people's opinion and insight and talent on different songs. But yeah, more than anything, I just learned that just do it. Like, just make music. It doesn't matter how you do it. And I mean, be open. I'm so open to learning and experimenting and trying new things, but I don't stress out so much anymore about the way I do it or how much time I spend doing it or that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I read somewhere that you don't believe in bad art, and how it is just like kind of based around just a taste, which, that's something I also like very much agree with. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think
yeah, go for it. No, go for it.
I don't believe in bad art necessarily. I think that I believe in like the art for the wrong reasons. Maybe, like if you are trying to do something in a pure way, then no matter what happens, like that's all that matters. But like corporate art is not my favorite thing. But also I just would never tell someone or think that someone was doing art the wrong way. Who am I to decide what the right reasons are? Yeah, I don't believe in bad art. There's definitely art that I really don't like, but that's just that's on me,
Right. Has there ever been like art that you've like really not liked, but have like come to like or like grown to appreciate?
Actually, I feel like I should never say anything bad about anyone, but the first time I heard Lord's album Melodrama, I was like, ugh, what is this? Like, why has she gone this direction? And now I'm like, this album is a masterpiece. Like, I love that record. Yeah, Green Light, specifically the song Green Light. I like hated it the first time I heard it. I was like, I hate this piano, what's happening? And now I'm like, this is one of the greatest pop songs ever made. But I will say, more than that, there's like people that we have toured with that before we went on the tour, I was like not a super fan. I was just like, whatever, this isn't really my thing. And then a couple days into the tour, after watching someone perform live over and over again, you're like, this is absolutely incredible. Like, look what you have done. You were a beautiful genius. So I would say I'm now like a huge fan of everyone that we've toured with. After not initially being super into, but there was no one that I was like, I hate this, and then went on tour and changed my mind. Yeah.
Is that kind of how your artistic and musical taste just kind of developed over the years? Is just like surrounding yourself with all of these musicians in the Chicago scene?
Maybe, yeah. I just try and be open in general to whatever's around me, or I do seek out a lot of music out of curiosity, and like, yeah, I'm just interested in music, and I just try and keep myself open to receiving things. And I definitely, the older I get, the less judgmental I become. When I was in like 8th grade, I was like, I know everything. Like, Pavement is the only cool band. And the older I get, I'm like just so open and willing, and like, yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone in Chicago is so amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like totally believe like, if you listen to something like, enough, you're gonna come to really enjoy it. And also just like, there's always something that you can enjoy in piece of art, like, you know.
Yeah,
So I think
definitely.
that's really cool. In addition to all of, you know, those wonderful artists that you have collaborated with on this album, you also have a very special guest on the final track of the record, Utopia Planet. So what did Grandma Beth think when you came to her with this idea?
Okay, so I just record. My grandma Beth is the light of my life, and she says hilarious, interesting things all the time, and I just record her all the time. And I knew that I really wanted to get her on a track on the record, and I mean, it was really easy. Like, I just was like, this is a perfect thing for the album. She was talking about this painting of me where I look strange. That's in my parents' house, and that, I mean, that was really easy. We just dragged and dropped it in the perfect place. But so I did not check with her before, but I sent it to my dad. So my whole family lives in England, so I was not able to ask her or show her specifically, but my dad did, and I was so nervous because she's kind of self-conscious. She like doesn't like pictures taken of her or things like that, and I was so worried she was going to think it was really strange, but she absolutely loves it. She's already told me she has more songs for me. She's like really, really into it. I think her, yeah, she's really excited. My cousin has a friend who really likes the band, and to her that means I'm like incredibly famous and successful, you know. It's like one person in England that she knows personally is a fan of my band. So she's like really excited to be a part of it too, and like show my cousins. She's the best.
Oh my
Love
God.
Grandma Beth. Shout out Grandma Beth.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. I can't wait to hear that. That's that's something that you're gonna like hold on to for like ever, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So lastly, what do you hope others take away from this album when they listen to it?
God, that's heavy. I just hope people like it. I don't know. I never think about like a specific message or like a direction I'm trying to send people in emotionally. I just hope that people engage with it. And I think that being a person means that you are like desperate to be seen as you are and be understood, and be witnessed. And I think that making art is also that. It's like asking to be seen and understood and be witnessed, even if that's not my conscious intention. So I would say that subconsciously I hope that people see and understand me, but also that they feel that way about themselves. You know, I think whenever you make music, you want to relate to people, and I hope that people feel seen or understood, or they just have fun and dance and cry and stuff. And I just hope people listen to it and they like it.
Oh, well, as someone who like listens to your music regularly, I definitely always feel very seen and heard. So I appreciate it. So thank you.
Love to hear that.
And also, thank you for taking the time to talk with me here on 90.9 The Bridge about you and your really exciting upcoming record, I Want the Door to Open, which will be out October 8th via Hardly Art. I appreciate it, and I'm so pumped for folks to hear all it has to offer.
Thank you so much for having me and for talking to me.
Yes. Alrighty, this is Lala Lala with their most recent release, Color of the Pool, right here on The Z Show.